Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Today we are reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, Chapter 18, Verse 23. Aham hi prishtor yamano pavadbhir.
Aham hi Prishto Ramano Bhavadir.
Achaksha atma vagamotra yavan.
Akshasha Atma Vagamotrayavam.
Nabha patantyatma samam patatrinas.
Nabha Patanti Atma Samam Patatrinas.
Tata samam vishnugatim vipashchitaha.
Tata Samam Vishnu Gatim Vipashchita.
Aham hi prishtor yamano pavadbhir.
Aham hi Prishto Ramano Bhavadir.
Achaksha atma vagamotra yavan.
Achaksha Atma Vagamotrayavam.
Nabha patantyatma samam patatrinas.
Nabha Patanti Atma Samam Patatrinas.
Tata samam vishnugatim vipashchitaha.
Tata Samam Vishnu Gatim Vipashchita.
Aham hi prishtor yamano bhavadbhir.
Aham hi Prishto Ramano Bhavadir.
Achaksha atma vagamotra yavan.
Achaksha Atma Vagamotrayavam.
Nabha patantyatma samam patatrinas.
Nabha Patanti Atma Samam Patatrinas.
Tata samam vishnugatim vipashchitaha.
Tata Samam Vishnu Gatim Vipashchita.
A word for word translation. Aham,
Aham,
my humble self.
my humble self.
He,
He,
certainly.
certainly.
Prishtaha,
Krishna,
asked by you.
asked by you.
Aryamanaha,
Aryamanaha,
as powerful as the sun.
as powerful as the sun.
Bhavadbhihi,
Bhavadhi,
by you.
by you.
Achakshe,
Achakshe,
may describe.
may describe.
Atma avagama,
Atma Avagama,
as far as my knowledge is concerned.
as far as my knowledge is concerned.
Atra,
Atra,
herein.
herein.
Yavan,
Yavam,
so far.
so far.
Nabhaha,
Nabha,
sky.
sky.
Patanti,
Patanti,
fly.
fly.
Atma samam,
Atma Samam,
as far as it can.
as far as it can.
Patatrinaha,
Patatrina,
the birds.
the birds.
Tata,
Tata,
thus.
thus.
Samam,
Samam,
similarly.
similarly.
Vishnugatim,
Vishnu Gatim,
knowledge of Vishnu.
knowledge of Vishnu.
Vipashchitaha,
Vipashchita,
even though learned.
even though learned.
Translation. O rishis, who are as powerfully pure as the sun, I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge is concerned. As the birds fly in the sky as far as their capacity allows, so do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. Purport. The Supreme Absolute Truth is unlimited. No living being can know about the unlimited by his limited capacity. The Lord is impersonal, personal, and localized. By his impersonal feature, he is all-pervading Brahman. By his localized feature, he is present in everyone's heart as the Supreme Soul. And by his ultimate personal feature, he is the object of transcendental loving service by his fortunate associates, the pure devotees. The pastimes of the Lord in different features can only be estimated partly by the great learned devotees. So Srila Suta Goswami has rightfully taken this position in describing the pastimes of the Lord as far as he has realized. Factually, only the Lord himself can describe himself, and his learned devotee also can describe him as far as the Lord gives him the power of description. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Okay, I'll read the translation again. O rishis, who are as powerfully pure as the sun, I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge is concerned. As the birds fly in the sky as far as their capacity allows, so do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. So, the context of this verse in chapter 18, it's called Pariksit is cursed by a brahmana boy, but we are halfway through the chapter, and only now in the next verse we will get to Maharaja Pariksit being cursed by a brahmana boy, because we have been hearing 23 verses of glorification about Krishna Katha. First, we heard Suta Goswami give a summary in a few verses of his previous description of Maharaj Pariksit's life and qualities. And then the sages of Naimisaranya responded in many verses, congratulating Suta Goswami about how wonderful the Krishna Katha he had shared with them was, and how their own efforts to benefit themselves and the world through the performance of a fire sacrifice was very pale in comparison to the purificatory power of the Krishna Katha that they had received from Suta Goswami. And then at the end of their glorification, they ask for Suta Goswami to please continue to provide narration about the pastimes of Vishnu. And so here we find that Suta Goswami is at the end of his initial response to the glorification he received, and this verse sort of serves as a transition between the conversation between Suta Goswami and the sages of Naimisaranya, and the continued narration of the pastimes of Maharaj Pariksit. And interestingly, that just after Suta Goswami is asked to continue narrating about the pastimes of Vishnu, and after Suta Goswami is here saying that he will glorify the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as his knowledge is concerned, and then he will talk about Maharaj Pariksit and not Vishnu in the next verse and the rest of this chapter. But because the devotee, the pure devotee, is intimately connected with Krishna, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Vishnu, therefore, because of this intimate connection, this is non-different from glorification of the pastimes and qualities of Krishna. The devotee is so intimately connected with Krishna that Krishna is never gone away from the devotee, and the devotee is never gone away from Krishna. They're always connected with each other. Even when apparently there is separation, actually that separation brings about the greatest manifestation of unity between the devotee and Krishna. And we see throughout Srimad-Bhagavatam many examples of this, especially once we get to the beginning of the third canto. It's one of my favorite examples of this. The case of Uddhava, and he ran into Vidura. Vidura was returning from pilgrimage, which he went on pilgrimage during the battle of Kurukshetra to avoid the bloodshed. And Uddhava, after the battle of Kurukshetra, was leaving the kingdom of Hastinapur. Meanwhile, Vidura was returning. So they ran into each other on their respective paths. And then the topic of the disappearance of Krishna came up. Krishna had already left from his manifest pastimes on this earth. And so, yes, Vidura asks Uddhava about this. Vidura already knew, actually, but still he felt the need to ask Uddhava what had happened, if Krishna had really disappeared. So here in this verse, we find that Suta Goswami, he's such a great devotee, so extraordinarily learned, and he had himself heard the entire Srimad-Bhagavatam from Sukhi Goswami, who recited it in front of Maharaja Pariksit and an assembly of sages and demigods. And so Suta Goswami, who is full of all kinds of knowledge, is here taking the time to point out the limits of his own ability to understand and glorify Krishna. And this is a very important point when it comes to understanding Krishna. One should know that one cannot actually understand Krishna completely. One can partially understand Krishna based on Krishna's giving one the realization of him. Krishna reveals himself to the devotee in proportion to the devotee's surrender. But even the pure devotee is never able to fully understand Krishna. This was something that I had a recent realization of, if you can call it that even amongst the pure devotees, not one pure devotee sees Krishna in exactly the same way as any other pure devotee. The perception of Krishna, even amongst the pure devotees, is completely subjective. Every single one of them has a unique relationship with Krishna, and that unique relationship with Krishna, which is defined by their loving devotional service to Krishna. Each devotee, through the lens of this service and relationship, sees Krishna in a different way. For instance, the vision of the gopis in their seeing Krishna and how they think about Krishna is drastically different from the vision that Mother Yashoda has. If Mother Yashoda saw Krishna in the way that the gopis do, that would completely contradict her relationship with Krishna as Krishna's mother. So, two different ways of seeing Krishna. Or others who are in a reverential mood towards Krishna, they cannot understand the experience of the residents of Vrindavan, whose love is so intimate for Krishna, their relationship with Krishna is so intimate that their love for him completely supersedes any considerations of Krishna's opulences. And even when those opulences are displayed right in front of them in so many ways, they are still not able to understand what they are seeing. That display of opulences does not override their loving sentiments towards Krishna. And one prime example of this is when Krishna was a young boy, less than 5 years old. He was playing with the cowherd boys and Balaram, and then the cowherd boys went to Mother Yashoda and complained that, Mother Yashoda, Krishna just ate dirt. And so then Mother Yashoda confronted Krishna. All these cowherd boys and even your brother are saying that you ate dirt. Is this true? No, Balaram is lying. They're all lying. I didn't eat dirt. Well, if you didn't eat dirt, then show me. Show me what's in your mouth. And then I will be able to see whether you're telling the truth or whether Balaram is telling the truth. And so then she looked inside of Krishna's mouth and she saw the entire universe, not just the entire universe, but the entire cosmic manifestation. She saw all the material and spiritual worlds. And she even saw herself inside Krishna's mouth. And yet, what was her reaction afterwards? She completely disregarded what she had just seen. She thought, well, am I sleepy? Or maybe there's some like mental disturbance going on. And then for a moment she started philosophizing a little bit, and then again that became completely covered over by her relationship, loving, intimate relationship with Krishna as Krishna's mother. Just completely disregarded everything that she had just seen. And we see many, many examples of this. I'm currently reading Chaitanya Bhagavat, and in the Adi Kanda chapter 12, we find that Vrindavan Das Thakur describes how Lord Chaitanya in his childhood and adolescence, he would go throughout Navadvip intellectually terrorizing the scholars of Navadvip and also the devotees. Navadvip was like the central hub of intellectual endeavor and academic discipline. People would come from all over India to go to Navadvip and study philosophy and grammar and Sanskrit in Navadvip. And it was such an opulent place. And then Nimai Pandit shows up, just a young boy, but he would go all throughout Navadvip. As he was walking down the road, there's a very vivid description of what Lord Chaitanya looked like as he was walking down the road. He has arms which reach down to his knees. It's a broad chest. He had not exactly muscular, but you could see the strength in his arms. And as he was walking, it's described that he would be swinging his arms. He would be swinging one arm, and in the other arm he would have books that he was carrying. And he would be chewing betel, pan, and he wore a very brilliant dhoti in the style of a sannyasi, so not in the typical ISKCON style, that quote-unquote ISKCON style that people wear dhotis usually, but the style of dhoti where it's wrapped around without a part of it going on between your legs. So he would go throughout Navadvip like this, and all the scholars, all the academics that he would encounter, he would challenge them, and he would debate them, and he was so skillful that he would first establish a philosophical point, and then he would immediately refute that philosophical point that he had just established. And then he would again reestablish the original point that he had made, all without contradicting himself at all, and completely bewildering all these intellectuals that he was encountering. And yet his way of doing this was so charming and endearing that the scholars were not upset at receiving this treatment, but rather it only increased their love for Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya's capacity for this was so beyond that of any human being, and we especially see this in the example of Lord Chaitanya defeating the Digvijay. He's a great scholar who came from the Kashmir region of India, and he was traveling all over India, defeating every single scholar that he encountered. He had gotten the blessings of Saraswati, that he was able to defeat anyone within the three worlds. And then he came to Navadvip. This is like the final boss of his defeating all the pundits. And who was the first person that he encountered? Was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, sitting on the bank of the Ganges with his students. There's a very beautiful description of what that looked like. It's always worth sharing. So let me find that. Yes, so chapter 13, verses 50 and 51, and then 59 to 68. So Vrindavan Das Thakur describes, after sprinkling some Ganges water on his head and offering obeisances, Lord Gauranga sat down on the bank of the Ganges with his students. As the students sat around the Lord in various groups, it created an unprecedented scene. It was a clear full moon night, and the Ganges looked most enchanting. As the Lord sat with his students, his attractive form was unmatched throughout innumerable universes. A smile decorated the Lord's moon-like face, and his beautiful eyes showered merciful glances. His teeth defeated the luster of a string of pearls, and his reddish lips resembled the color of the rising sun. He was full of compassion, and all of the limbs of his body were delicate. His head was adorned with beautiful, curly black hair. His dress was divine. His neck resembled that of a lion, and his shoulders were like those of an elephant. His body was very large, and his attractive chest was adorned by Lord Ananta in the form of a brahmana thread. An enchanting mark of tilak decorated his forehead, and his beautiful arms reached to his knees. The Lord wore his cloth like a sannyasi, and he sat with his right foot on his left thigh. As the Lord explained the scriptures, he established correct statements as incorrect, and incorrect statements as correct. All of his students sitting around him in groups created an enchanting scene. So, so after the Digvijay showed up to the scene, then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu completely defeated him, completely bewildered this great Pandit who had been able to defeat all other scholars of India. And then the Pandit went home and was thinking, how is this that this young boy has completely defeated me when I have the blessings of Saraswati, that I would be able to defeat anyone within these three worlds? Thought maybe I have committed some offense against Saraswati, and therefore she has taken away my intelligence. And then Sarasvati appeared to him in a dream and explained that actually you do not understand who you have just seen on the bank of the Ganges. This is not an ordinary human being. This was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So without Krishna being revealed to someone, it is not possible for a person to understand Krishna. Just by your material senses, you cannot see Krishna. Krishna is completely inaccessible by the material senses. And by the material mind and intellect also, one cannot understand Krishna. It says in the Katha Upanishad 1 to 23, it's a very famous verse. It says, Nayamatma pravachnena labhyo namedhya na bahuna shrutena. This means the absolute truth cannot be attained by philosophical discourse, nor by intellectual endeavor, nor by repeated study of Shastra. Yame vaishya vrenute tena labhyas tasyaisha atma vrenute tanum svam. Krishna is attained only by that devotee whom Krishna chooses. For such a devotee, the Lord reveals his own form. So if you want to try to understand the absolute truth by your own personal endeavor, there is some partial realization that one is able to attain. One can attain by intellectual endeavor. One can attain an understanding of Brahman. This is the all-pervading spiritual energy that's emanating from Krishna, often described as the impersonal effulgence that's emanating from Krishna. All of the different energies that we experience and also that we don't experience, all of the energies of Krishna are transformations of Brahman. So everything that we see around us and also ourselves, we can understand this to be manifestations of Brahman. There are generally three categories of energies that Brahman transforms into. The first is the Bahiranga Shakti. Who can think of where this word Bahir, where do we encounter it? Yeah. Yes, exactly. And what does that line mean?
You read it in English.
He's the heart and is outside as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's in heart and outside as well, like by outside.
So which of the words is heart? Do you know?
Hriday is heart.
And then Bahir is outside. Yes. So Bahiranga Shakti, this means his external energy. This is the material nature, is the external energy of Krishna. And then we have the Antaranga Shakti. Antar means within. So we find, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Bahiranta Bhutanam, that he's both within and without all living entities. He's within the heart of all living entities, and he's also outside of all living entities. Acharam, charamevacha, both the moving and the non-moving. So Bahiranga Shakti, Antaranga Shakti, this is the internal potency. So for instance, Srimati Radharani is a manifestation of the internal energy. Specifically the Hladini Shakti. This is one of the three subdivisions of the internal energy. And then we have the Tatastha Shakti. This is the marginal potency. This is the jivas. So all of us are Tatastha Shakti. And why are we marginal? It's because although we are Parashakti, although we belong to the category of the superior energies of Krishna, the spiritual energies of Krishna, still because we are so tiny, infinitesimal sparks of Krishna's energy, therefore we are able to become overwhelmed by either the material energy, the Bahiranga Shakti, or the Antaranga Shakti, the internal energy. So depending on what we take shelter of, we become carried away by one or the other kind of energy. So therefore we are tatastha, we are marginal. So this is the manifestation of Brahman. And then Paramatma is the next more advanced stage of realization of Krishna. And actually, one may be surprised to know that it is also possible by intellectual analysis to have realization of the Supersoul. Most people don't know this. But in the 11th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam, Krishna actually explains he explains to Uddhava how through intellectual discrimination one can understand the presence of the Supersoul. And so what does the Supersoul do? So the Supersoul is Krishna's localized expansion. Krishna infinitely expands himself into infinite Paramatma forms, which are within every single atom of every single universe, and also within the heart of every single living entity. And Paramatma also manifests as the presiding Vishnu deity of each universe, and also as Mahavishnu, from whom all the universes are emanating through the pores of his skin. So the Paramatma, the reason for Krishna's expansion as Paramatma, or what roles the Paramatma serves, is that the Paramatma sustains the universe, and the Paramatma also provides a connection between the jiva and the material energy, and in this way gives guidance to the jiva. And so 2 verses that establish these philosophical, theological points about the Paramatma we find in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, verse 7. Krishna says, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. Krishna says, O conqueror of wealth, there's no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So the word that Krishna uses in regard to this thread concept, Krishna is saying that he is the thread that everything rests on. So the word is protam. This literally means the wharf. Like when you are weaving a fabric, you have vertical threads, and those are held in tension. Generally speaking, there's different weaving methods, but generally speaking, these vertical threads stay constant and stay in tension the entire time, and then the horizontal threads weave in and out of the vertical threads. So the vertical threads are non-changing and also not seen. When you look at a well-made fabric, you do not perceive these vertical threads. You only see the horizontal threads. So Krishna is like this. He's the protam. He's the vertical threads that hold together the universe. And he does this in his expansion as Paramatma. And then as far as Krishna's role within the heart of all living entities, Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. He says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So all of the ways that we perceive all of our conceptions, all of our thought processes, these are all facilitated by the Paramatma. And Krishna further elaborates again in the 11th canto of Srimad-Bhagavatam in the Uddhava Gita. Krishna explains to Uddhava, because Uddhava is perplexed that how is it possible for the pure spirit soul to have any interface with the material nature? The material nature and the spirit soul are completely incompatible energies. So how is it possible that they have any kind of interaction with each other? And Krishna explains that this interaction is interfaced by the Paramatma. The Paramatma provides the capacity for the jiva to be able to interact with and identify with the material energy, and also gives the impetus for the jiva to act within this material energy. Now, this might seem very cruel, and in fact, some religions or religious people, or maybe non-religious people, would argue that this is an exhibition of cruelty on the part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that within the heart of the living entities, the Supreme Personality of Godhead would bewilder the conditioned souls. Right? People say that if there's a God, why doesn't he just reveal himself? Saying, I can't see God, so why should I think that there's a God? And if God wants me to believe in him, then why doesn't he show me? But Krishna is actually exhibiting his mercy to the conditioned souls by keeping himself covered from them. Why is this? Because the conditioned souls have the proclivity to act separately from Krishna. The conditioned souls are characterized by attachment and aversion. And this aversion is especially an aversion to Krishna, an aversion to following Krishna's instructions, an aversion to understanding Krishna. So therefore, Krishna is impartial in his dealings with the jivas. Krishna says, if a jiva wants to be separate from me, then I facilitate this. He says, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yogamaya Samavrita. He covers the conditioned soul with his internal potency, with his yogamaya, or as it is manifest within the material world, the Mahamaya. So Krishna covers over the conditioned souls who want to try to exist separately from him and enjoy separately from him. Actually, it's not possible for the jiva or anything to exist separately from Krishna. So therefore, there must be an illusory energy to cover over the soul's knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cover over our ability to perceive the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere, to be able to perceive that the energies around us are not manifestations of Krishna. This is facilitated necessarily by Maya. And for someone who wishes to take shelter of Krishna, then Krishna also provides that opportunity. Such a devotee takes shelter of the internal potency, the Daivi Shakti. And in this way, Krishna then opens the heart of the jiva so that gradually the jiva is able to understand him partially, but never completely. And we see, again, many examples of this. Even besides the jivas, or even not the jivas, but the manifestations of the internal potency, such as Srimati Radharani or Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda and Radharani are not jivas. The eternal associates of Krishna in the spiritual world, most of them, there's an infinite number, so it's kind of hard to conceive of most, but many of them are manifestations of Krishna's internal potency. They're not jivas. They don't have a capacity for falling away from from Krishna and becoming covered by material nature. The Radharani will never fall down and become covered by material nature. It's her eternal constitutional position that she's always intimately connected with Krishna. But so even amongst Krishna's devotees within the spiritual world, and what to speak of them, but even Krishna's own expansions, such as Lord Balaram, are not able to fully understand Krishna. And we see an example of this in the 10th canto, chapter 13. Krishna, his calves and the cowherd boys had been stolen away by Brahma. Lord Brahma, again, a devotee of Krishna, pure devotee, and yet when he saw Krishna's pastimes going on in Vrindavan, he thought, is it really possible that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead that I'm seeing here? This young boy who is holding food in his left hand, it's like yogurt and rice and fruits practically leaking out from between his fingers, and with a flute tucked into his belt, the lotus flower in his right hand. Is it possible that this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead from whom I myself have been born? Lord Brahma had been living for an extent of time that is outside of the conception of us human beings. And yet here we have this little 5-year-old boy, and Lord Brahma is thinking, is that really from whom I have myself been born? How is this so? And so he decided that I'm going to test, is this really Krishna? Is this really the Supreme Personality of Godhead? By stealing away the calves and the cowherd boys, and then seeing how does Krishna respond to this. So Krishna's response was that he personally expanded himself as every single cowherd boy and every single calf. He was able to perfectly manifest the qualities and activities of every single calf and cowherd boy. For an entire year, he covered over the what was happening and the fact that the real cowherd boys and calves had been stolen by Brahma. And his ability to do this was so great that even Lord Balaram himself didn't understand this. And we see this most clearly represented and expressed in chapter 13, verse 36 and 37, where Lord Balaram he had just seen a manifestation of the unprecedented level of love that was going on between the cows and the calves and the cowherd men and the cowherd boys. And so Lord Balaram starts thinking to himself, and he says, Kimetad adbhutam iva vasudeve kilatmani rajasya satmanas tokesh vapurvam premavardite. Lord Balaram says, what is this wonderful phenomenon? The affection of all the inhabitants of Raj, including me, toward these boys and calves is increasing as never before, just like our affection for Lord Krishna, the supersoul of all living entities. And then he says, Kayam va kuta ayata daiviva nar yuta suri prayo mayastu me partur nanya me pi vimohini. Lord Balaram says, who is this mystic power, and where has she come from? Is she a demigod or a demoness? And then he realizes, she must be the illusory energy of my master, Lord Krishna, for who else other than Krishna can bewilder me? So even Lord Balaram is bewildered by Krishna when Krishna so desires. And even we see the example of Anantashesha. Anantashesha has unlimited hoods, unlimited mouths, through which he is unlimitedly glorifying Krishna, and yet he's never able to reach the end of this glorification because Krishna's qualities are completely unlimited. Not only are they unlimited, but they are ever expanding. And so therefore, even for Anantashesha, to get to the end of glorifying Krishna is not possible. So what to speak of us devotees, us tiny jivas, especially us aspiring devotees who still have so much material covering over our heart? It's not possible for us to fully or sufficiently describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But this does not mean that we should just give up. I can't describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's unlimited. Advaitam achyutam anadim anantarupam. He's completely outside of all conceptions. So how is it possible for me to describe and glorify Krishna? Might as well just give up. Just go back to the club, or whatever kind of activities I was engaged in. No, the devotee nevertheless engages in glorification of Krishna as far as the devotee has the capacity to. And then Krishna gradually reveals himself within the heart of such a devotee, and Krishna gives the devotee the words by which the devotee can glorify Krishna. And we see many examples of this also, the testimony of the pure devotees in regard to their glorification of Krishna. For instance, we find Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in his writing of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He said that actually this book that I'm writing, this glorification and description of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, this is actually not my words. He said, I'm just like a puppet that is being made to dance by my master. And who is my master? My master is Krishna. So I'm simply speaking whatever words he is manifesting through me. And Srila Prabhupada also said this about himself in regard to his own books. He would read his own books and be astonished that, how is it that I've written such a thing? He said, these are not the words of me, these are the words of Krishna. Another example, Dhruva Maharaj. When he went out to the forest and practiced austerities and devotional service, chanting mantras. And then finally, Lord Narayan appeared to Dhruva Maharaj. And he was just a young 5-year-old boy. How much glorification can a young 5-year-old boy give of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And he was so overwhelmed by seeing Narayan before him that he became completely speechless. And yet he wished to offer prayers and glorification to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so therefore, Narayan touched Dhruva on his head with his conch shell, and that gave Dhruva Maharaj, or he wasn't Maharaj at the time, he was just a young boy, but that gave Dhruva the capacity to be able to offer very wonderful prayers to Lord Narayan. So it's not by our own capacity that we glorify Krishna. Really, it is by Krishna's and the devotees, great devotees' blessings upon us that we are able to say anything. Again, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvasi chaham hridi sanivishto mata smritir jnanam apohanam cha. Krishna is completely controlling us from within the heart as the super soul. So if we don't have the mercy of Krishna, if we don't have the mercy of the great devotees, the blessings, then we will not be able to glorify Krishna. But if we are sincere in our endeavors and we pray sincerely, then we will have some capacity to be able to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna will gradually even act through us. Krishna will act through our words. Krishna will give messages to others through the words that he inspires us to say. We shouldn't be quick to attribute this, or also we shouldn't get carried away that, we start chastising devotees unnecessarily, and then say, oh, well, it's just, Prabhu, don't be offended, it's just Krishna speaking through my heart. That would be very ridiculous to have such a mentality. But nevertheless, one can practically experience that there will be many instances in which Krishna may talk through you and in that way inspire someone. And so I will stop there. Oh yeah, the last thing I was going to say was that I was just at Gita Nagari for a disciples retreat for disciples of His Holiness Devamrta Swami, my spiritual master. And there was a Q&A session. And so the question that I chose to ask my Gurudev was, what does he think about, or what does he do to prepare for giving a class? And Maharaj's answer was that he prays to Krishna that, please allow me to say something that will touch the hearts of the devotees whom I am speaking to and whose questions I'm about to answer. Please empower me to be able to speak in a way that is of benefit to these devotees. And Devamrta Maharaj said that through these prayers, then that is how he prepares to give Bhagavatam class. I think he also does make some notes and compile some, some references. Yeah, he's coming here in 2 weeks. So we can see if he's looking at any notes. But yes, the main point is this prayer to Krishna that, please allow me to say something that is of benefit. This is why before starting class we say so many prayers glorifying the spiritual master and glorifying Krishna. We're asking for blessings, both blessings to speak and also blessings to be able to hear. So this is an essential point to always remember when it comes to hearing and chanting about Krishna. So I will actually stop there, and if there's any questions or comments or complaints, I will entertain them.
Only complaints. Thank you for a great class. I liked the visual of the weaving, and it reminded me of in the Gita about the pearl necklace. How a pearl necklace is, Krishna is explaining that the pearl necklace is arranged so perfectly, but he's the invisible thread that you can't see. So even though it was like it's kind of a different perspective, not different perspective, but a different example, it reminded me of that. And then I was thinking of when you were describing Lord Chaitanya, my BF. He when I was in a class at the manor with Keshava Swami, there was like this, he said, he was also describing his long arms, and the class was about how Lord Chaitanya interacted with all different groups. Like he didn't discriminate, and he had all these different circles, and he was able to talk to so many different people and impact them and influence them in a positive way. But how there was a debate between like whether he actually had ridiculously long arms or his reach was really wide, like all these people. So but it's described, like his physical form is described as well. Like he was a really tall man with long arms.
Yeah, well, there's a kind of person that's described in the Vedas. I don't remember the word for it, but a great personality has certain symptoms, and one of those symptoms is that they have arms that reach to their knees. So it is a physical thing. And we might ask actually that Why is it that Lord Chaitanya's arms only reach to his knees? Right? He's unlimited. So this is an example of the inconceivability that Krishna's form is unlimited, and yet it seems to have limitation, but Krishna simply manifests himself in this way for the sake of his pastimes. Well, anyways, so you can't say that he manifests himself like that because Krishna is eternally like that. So, but within our, again, we're conditioned as jivas, we're conditioned by concepts of time and space. So we think in this kind of way, but actually it's eternal. So this is another example of the inconceivability of Krishna, Achintya. But yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sukhi.
Anything else? Okay, Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.